The story begins within the Runendell family, a powerful clan of swordsmen that rules half the world. Every member of this family is born with extraordinary strength and unmatched talent, guided by three core values: combat, conquest, and control. These principles form the foundation of their dominance, and strength alone decides one's worth. Jin Runendell, the youngest son of the family, took part in the grand selection ceremony where each child's future path was determined. He chose the patriarch's sword, Barasada, a symbol of leadership. Everyone believed this choice marked him as the one destined to become the next patriarch. Even his father found it fascinating, confident that Jin's life would be filled with success and recognition. But reality was harsh. Jin lacked the natural swordsmanship talent that defined the Runendell family. Despite his lineage, he could not match the skill or strength of his siblings. Soon, he was branded a disgrace, ridiculed by others, and mocked for his efforts. His brothers found amusement in his struggles, treating his training as a joke. They saw him as unworthy of the Barasada and the Runendell name. Their scorn often turned physical, knocking him down whenever he tried to defend himself. They considered his persistence meaningless and claimed his efforts would never change anything. No matter how many times he was humiliated or hurt, Jin never retaliated. Instead, he silently endured, holding on to a faint hope that if he worked hard enough, he might someday earn the trust and acknowledgement of his family. Eventually, that hope was crushed. Jin was abandoned and cast out, left to live as a vagrant. Yet fate had other plans. Wandering aimlessly, he crossed paths with a teacher who saw something hidden within him, a different kind of strength. Jin discovered that he could wield magic, a forbidden art in his clan. This power, unseen by others, became his new path. 3 years passed. Jin trained relentlessly, balancing both swordsmanship and magic. One day, his life changed again when he was suddenly pulled into darkness. There, he encountered Sadaret, the god of shadows. The deity offered him a contract that granted him control over shadow powers and immunity to curses. During this encounter, Sadaret noticed something unusual about Jin. A curse had bound him since birth, one known as Blade's Delusion. This curse suppressed his potential as a swordsman, explaining why he had failed all his life. Sadaret lifted the curse and promised that Jin would now become a true swordsman. When Jin returned, he immediately tested his sword. His movements were smoother, faster, and sharper than ever before. For the first time, he felt the harmony between his blade and his magic. Everything he had struggled for finally made sense, and the strength he had dreamed of was now his reality. But destiny was not kind. Despite his newfound power, Jin was later ambushed and defeated in battle. Crushed beneath debris, he faced death again, wondering why he had been given a second chance only to lose everything once more. As his vision faded, the world around him dissolved into darkness. Then he opened his eyes and found himself standing in the sword sanctuary of his clan, his childhood surroundings. Everything was as it had been more than 20 years ago. He realized that he had returned to the past, to the moment when he first chose the Barasada. This time, however, things are different. The boy who once held that sword with uncertainty now grasped it with conviction. His family celebrated his choice, unaware that the weak child they mocked had been reborn with purpose. 6 years later, still too small to reach the top shelf, Jin had already vowed to rewrite his fate from the very beginning. Jin has been living in the Storm Castle for quite some time now, enduring its isolation while counting down the 3 remaining years before he's finally free. The place feels like a cage to him, where every day passes under strict eyes and silent walls. One morning, a maid enters his room and freezes in horror. There's a dead bird lying motionless on the floor. Jin quickly understands the situation. Only 2 people in the castle would pull such a cruel stunt: his mischievous brothers, Diatona and Tona, both 9 years old. The 2 stand outside, laughing as if they've just accomplished something amusing. Jin looks at them with quiet sadness, remembering how in his previous life these same 2 grew up to become murderers. Even as children, their hearts were already dark, mocking him by killing a helpless creature just to get his reaction. They start taunting him for not using the Barasada, the family's prestigious sword. Jin remains calm, but when Tona suddenly lunges forward to attack, he reacts instantly. He blocks the punch with ease, catching his brother completely off guard, and retaliates with a swift counter. Though Jin holds back his real strength, the blows he delivers are powerful enough to send a clear message. The once passive younger brother now shows no hesitation, leaving both of them bruised and stunned. After the scuffle, he warns them not to cross his path again. Moments later, Khan, one of the Guardian Knights, arrives and is shocked to see the state of the two young masters. Jin calmly explains that they simply fought each other, hiding the truth. Khan, although doubtful, suggests taking them to a doctor, but Jin refuses and instead orders that they be left exposed to the heavy storm outside, a harsh punishment meant to teach them the weight of their actions. Khan obeys but senses something dark emanating from Jin, a strange, almost sinister aura. It makes him suspect that the young master might have used mana. Realizing the truth behind the brothers' defeat, Khan decides to report everything to the Patriarch. Back in the Storm Castle, Jin notices Khan leaving to make his report and understands what's happening. He knows the knight must have sensed the use of Shadow Force, the power granted to him through his contract with the God of Darkness. This confirms that even after returning to the past, his shadow powers remain active, keeping him free from the curse that once crippled his swordsmanship. With that realization, he feels relief. In this life, he will not be remembered as the weakest swordsman. However, he soon faces a new challenge, a confrontation with his father, the Patriarch. After hearing Khan's report, the Patriarch orders the flag bearers to assemble, summoning 200 knights of the Runendell family. His return to the Storm Castle is nothing short of legendary. Mary, one of the flag bearers, is surprised by the sudden command, while her comrade Dia speculates that it might involve Jin. They had been in the middle of an intense battle when the order came, leaving everyone confused about why the Patriarch would summon them over a child. Luna, another flag bearer, signals them to stay silent, but curiosity lingers. None of them understand the real reason behind the Patriarch's interest in Jin. At the castle, a maid informs Jin about his father's arrival. He quietly wonders what exactly Khan reported. He suspects his father must have sensed something different about the energy he used, something beyond both mana and aura. He knows this meeting will determine whether his mysterious power will be seen as a blessing or a threat to the clan. The Patriarch, Kirin Runendell, arrives with his knights, his presence alone commanding silence. His sword gleams with authority as he immediately orders that Diatona and Tona be brought before him. When questioned about their behavior, the two try to twist the story, claiming that Jin attacked them with a strange, magic-like power. Their attempt to manipulate the situation fails. Kirin's expression remains cold and unmoved. He dismisses their excuses, warning that such weakness and deceit have no place in the family. After addressing them, he demands Jin's presence. Standing before his father, Jin faces the man who represents absolute strength, Kirin Runendell, the Patriarch, a divine star knight whose power reaches near godhood. His immense strength has stripped him of most human emotions, leaving only ambition for the family's greatness. In his previous life, Jin had never earned his father's approval and was treated as insignificant. But this time, standing before him again, things are no longer the same. In this life, Jin walks with confidence, no longer the timid boy who once bowed his head in shame. When he enters the hall, the flag bearers turn their attention toward him, surprised by the composure in his stride. He kneels before his father, the mighty Patriarch, Kirin Runendell. The Patriarch questions why his son addresses him formally as Patriarch instead of father. Jin respectfully explains that it feels proper to use a title that reflects both authority and reverence. Impressed by his tone, Kirin proceeds to test him with the same question he had asked his brothers. Frustrated, yet composed, Jin responds that their mistake lies in revenge itself. He quotes the family's creed, that vengeance must always be carried out, regardless of who stands in the way. His answer silences the hall. With a wave of his hand, Kirin orders the knights and flag bearers to leave. The soldiers exchange stunned glances, realizing that Jin has passed his father's test. Mary, one of the flag bearers and Jin's elder sister, looks on with pride, finding it remarkable that her younger brother has earned a private audience with their father. Once the room empties, Kieran's attention sharpens. He brings up the topic of magic, reminding Jin that sorcery hinders true mastery of the sword. His voice turns stern as he demands to know the source of his son's power, warning that punishment awaits if the answer involves mana. Jin thinks quickly. He knows that revealing the god of darkness as the source would lead to disaster. Instead, he claims not to fully understand his power and decides to demonstrate it instead. As the energy fills the room, Kieran's eyes widen in recognition. The power Jin wields is Shadow Force, the same energy once used by the founding patriarch of their clan. Astonished, he realizes that his son can command both the sacred sword Barasada and the forbidden shadows. Curious, Kieran begins to speak of history long forgotten. He reveals that Sadaret, the god of shadows, once forged a pact with Tamar, the clan's first patriarch, granting the Runindels immense growth. After Tamar's death, Sadaret vanished, never again offering his strength to anyone, until now. Intrigued by this revelation, Jin asks if the god of shadows is stronger than even his father. Kieran pauses, then admits he does not know, as he has never faced a god in battle. Yet his tone carries a quiet confidence, one that only the strongest man in the world could hold. The patriarch even allows himself a faint smile, appreciating his son's curiosity and resolve. He then asks how Jin intends to use his newfound power. At first, Jin answers that he will use it for the prosperity of the clan. Kieran laughs at the dishonesty, having already seen through his son's nature. He knows the boy is cunning and ruthless, the same child who beat his brothers and left them to face a storm as punishment. Recognizing the futility of pretending, Jin admits that he intends to use the Shadow Force for himself. Instead of being angered, Kieran praises this honesty. He acknowledges the boy's ambition and decides to watch his growth closely. The meeting ends with a sense of mutual understanding. Jin leaves exhausted but satisfied, relieved that he no longer needs to hide his abilities. That night, memories of his past life resurface, of how invisible he once felt. This time, though, everything is different. His efforts are being noticed, and his strength no longer mocked. Later, Mary visits him, carrying a box as a gift. Inside lies the burning heart of a phoenix, a bizarre yet powerful offering. Mary, known as the Madwoman of the South and a six-star knight, tells him it's a challenge, a gift to help him grow stronger and someday face her in battle. The heart of a phoenix grants immunity to fire and accelerates one's growth, an incredible boon for a 7-year-old. Jin wonders if he will one day be strong enough to summon a phoenix of his own. As he contemplates this, the maid Jill brings him soup. Before he can eat, his mischievous brothers appear, drooling at the aroma but too proud to ask for a share. Jin makes them a deal. They can have some soup if they complete a task for him. Desperate, the two agree and begin digging in the courtyard. Unaware of what they're uncovering, they eventually find a sealed chamber buried beneath the earth. By the time they return, dirty and exhausted, Jin has already eaten most of the soup, leaving only a tiny spoonful behind as their reward. Meanwhile, Jin visits the spot they unearthed. Using his mana, he breaks through the remaining barrier, revealing an ancient hidden chamber, the secret library of the Runindel clan. This place had been forbidden to him in his past life, reserved only for the flag bearers. Inside, countless relics and records from fallen enemies are preserved. Remembering a passcode he once learned from Dais in his previous life, Jin chants the words to enter. The door opens, and he steps into the dark, silent hall. There, he discovers a mysterious figure preserved in a capsule, a being with scales and an aura that feels both ancient and powerful. The realization strikes him. This is Muraken, the dark dragon defeated by the first patriarch long ago. Standing before the legendary creature, Jin begins to explore the archives, searching for knowledge about the Kungan clan. The ancient language proves difficult to read, but instead of risking exposure by taking the books, he decides to copy their contents by hand. Day after day, Jin returns, quietly studying and transcribing the texts at home, determined to uncover every secret that the Runindel family once hid from him. One quiet day in the Storm Castle, Jin's routine was interrupted by an unexpected visitor. Someone had entered the library at a strange hour, and it turned out to be no ordinary person. The one who appeared was Muraken, the dark dragon who had long been in slumber. His sudden awakening startled Jin, though he tried his best to stay composed, knowing this creature was once an ally of the clan. Trying to be respectful, Jin referred to him as Dragon, but that only angered Muraken. The ancient being lashed out in frustration, insulted by how far he had fallen, from a being of immense power to a mere guardian for the Runkendels. Muraken grumbled bitterly about his current state, but his awakening wasn't without reason. He had sensed something strange from the boy, a faint trace of shadow force. When Muraken examined Jin more closely, he was stunned. That dark energy could only belong to the contractor of Sadaret, the god of darkness. There was no doubt about it. Jin was the new contractor. Curious, Jin revealed his shadow powers to confirm it. The dragon was completely taken aback, mumbling in disbelief before collapsing in dismay. The mighty Muraken couldn't believe that the new contractor of the god of darkness was just a small boy. Realizing there was no escaping fate, Muraken admitted that he had once made an oath with Sadaret, binding him to serve the god's next contractor, which now turned out to be Jin. He didn't go into details, deciding to explain everything later. Instead, he properly introduced himself in his true form, revealing his massive, shadowy dragon body, the last descendant of the shadows and the sworn servant of Sadaret. Jin respectfully introduced himself as the youngest member of the Runcandle clan. The mountain where the Storm Castle stood was actually named after Muraken himself, the same dragon who had once ruled the skies for millennia before losing a fateful battle to the first patriarch of the clan. That fight wasn't born of hatred. It was a destined clash between two beings bound by divine contracts. People had long wondered what happened to the dark dragon after that battle. Few knew he had been sleeping beneath the castle all this time. Now awake, Muraken had once again found his purpose, to serve Jin as his guardian. In his human form, he spent time talking with the boy, answering his endless questions and teaching him about the old world. Jin continued visiting the library for months after Muraken's awakening. He was especially curious about the battle between Muraken and the first patriarch, Timar. But Muraken could barely remember the details, brushing it off with a laugh and preferring to focus on his new favorite discovery, strawberry pies. Despite his forgetfulness, he admired Jin's persistence in studying the ancient books, something no other child would have the patience for. When Jin humbly called himself average compared to his powerful siblings and parents, Muraken disagreed. He told the boy that even Timar, the legendary founder himself, couldn't have grasped the knowledge Jin now studied at such a young age. Timar's strength had come not from reading, but from raw instinct and willpower. Muraken assured Jin that he possessed the same extraordinary talent, and that, with time and training, he could rise to stand beside or even surpass the legendary flames of Timar. Muraken, wanting to keep Jin motivated, begins telling him more about Sadaret. He reveals that the god of shadows is also known as Sadaret the Infinite, a being whose power knows no limits. This means that Jin's potential as the god's contractor could reach unimaginable heights. To nurture that potential, Muraken decides to teach the boy a vital technique, the Shadow Force Release. This ability is fundamental for mastering the Shadow Force, but it carries great risk if handled carelessly. Muraken warns him to train diligently before attempting it again. He then instructs Jin to release his mana, but the boy seems puzzled. Muraken clarifies that Shadow Force Release depends on two basic skills, mana release and mana transfer. Normally, mastering these would take at least 3 years of training, but Jin's impatience to grow stronger pushes him to attempt it immediately. Muraken, strict about the basics, initially refuses to proceed until Jin shows proper control. However, Jin stuns him by executing a flawless mana release on his first try, followed by a clean mana transfer. Muraken, speechless, realizes that this tiny brat might actually be a genius. With both prerequisites perfectly met, he demonstrates the Shadow Force Release himself. The library darkens as shadows flood the room, responding to Muraken's power. He explains that all shadows originate from Soderet's energy, and because Jin is Soderet's sole contractor, he too can become a master of the shadows. The sight leaves Jin amazed as he witnesses the full might of his powers for the first time. Meanwhile, far from the castle, Luna, one of the Run-Candle flag bearers, nears the end of her mission. Surrounded by the remains of defeated monsters, she estimates it will take another 4 months to finish. She briefly wonders what kind of gift her younger brother would like when she returns. 6 months pass since Muraken's awakening. Jin's older brothers, Tona and Daytona, leave the castle after reaching adulthood. On his 9th birthday, the young master receives a celebration cake from Jill, who insists everyone should enjoy together. As they prepare, Khan, known for his constant gossiping, suddenly appears to announce that Lady Luna, the eldest sibling and first flag bearer, has come for a personal visit. Luna Run-Candle, the strongest heir and the most gifted knight of the clan, has always been different. Despite her strength, she has no interest in competing for the patriarch's seat and often distances herself from her siblings. In Jin's previous life, she had treated him like a stranger, so her sudden visit now feels completely unexpected. Jin begins to worry, wondering if she somehow discovered his secret trips to the library. However, Luna greets him with warmth and surprising gentleness. She pats his head, asks about his well-being, and speaks with genuine concern. Jin can't help but feel guarded. This kindness doesn't match the Luna he once knew. She notices his hesitation and realizes that her little brother might think she sees him as a rival. Hurt by the thought, Luna apologizes and kneels before him, asking to talk privately. When they are alone, Luna explains that she hurried back because their siblings have started watching Jin closely ever since his sudden rise in status. She fears they might act against him once he leaves the safety of the Storm Castle. She confesses that she despises the clan's cruel traditions, where even family ties are secondary to ambition. Hearing this, Jin finally understands why Luna abandoned her pursuit of the patriarch's position, something she never revealed in his past life. He admits that he won't back down, no matter the threat. Luna insists that her advice isn't meant to discourage him, only to protect him. When Jin mentions that he's already faced one assassination attempt, Luna's calm demeanor vanishes. Her aura flares with fury at the thought that someone dared to harm her brother within their own home. She demands to know the attacker's name, but Jin assures her he's fine and that he doesn't know who it was. Relieved yet still angry, Luna embraces her brother tightly, apologizing for the family's endless conflicts. Jin, feeling the warmth of genuine care for the first time, is quietly moved by her compassion. Not wanting to spoil his birthday mood, Luna presents him with a gift, a beautiful blue pendant, a rare moment of affection between siblings in a family built on rivalry. Luna instructs Jin to turn around and shows him the blue pendant she gave him. The necklace holds a powerful ability. Once shattered, it can summon Luna to his aid in dangerous situations. She gives it to him not only as a birthday gift, but as a safeguard, wanting him to be protected whenever trouble arises. They share a warm, heartfelt celebration before she must return to her duties, bidding him farewell. Later, Jin visits the library wearing the pendant, which surprises Muraken. The dragon recognizes it as a legendary treasure that once belonged to the demon beast king, a relic many had risked their lives to claim. The pendant not only enhances its wearer's abilities, but also grants immunity against weak spells. Jin explains its origins and realizes that Luna likely sensed Muraken's presence all along, but kept it a secret out of care for him. Muraken confirms this, understanding the trust and support Luna places in her little brother. Over the past years, Jin's early life, which he once expected to be slow and uneventful, had been full of growth and opportunity. He received rare gifts, honed his skills, and formed important relationships, things his previous self could only dream of. On his 10th birthday, he sparred with Khan, the guardian knight, demonstrating extraordinary strength for his age. Khan, impressed, recognized why the patriarch had maintained a close interest in Jin and paid him respect as his final mentor before the boy left the Storm Castle. Jin had also begun to feel the effects of Mary's gift, the Phoenix Heart, which gradually made him immune to flames. With his powers steadily taking effect, he prepared to leave the castle the following day. Jill packed his books for the journey, and he requested his usual strawberry pie as a snack. Arriving at the secret library to meet Murakin one last time, Jin wondered how they would maintain contact. Murakin, though currently weakened, reassured him that as Jin grew stronger, the dragon would recover in parallel. He planned to maintain a powerful hallucination of himself to deceive any onlookers until Jin reached adulthood. The dragon also enjoyed the treat Jin brought, delighted by the prospect of strawberry pie and the chance to celebrate. As Jin prepared to leave for the family estate, Jill reminded him that life would become far busier and she might not always be able to serve him personally. Guardian Knights Jerome and Holt arrived to escort him on the journey. It was the end of the 18th century as Jin departed the Storm Castle, heading toward the Garden of Swords. Heavy snowfall slowed their progress, preventing portal use. Suddenly, the carriage halted abruptly, and Jerome and Holt warned Jin to stay inside as an unexpected obstacle appeared ahead. The carriage ride quickly turns into chaos as it comes under attack. Jill, confident in the strength of the 7-star knights assigned to protect them, initially believes they can handle the threat. But Jin quickly notices something amiss. The attackers outnumber the knights 20-1, and it becomes clear that the guardians themselves have betrayed them. Realizing the danger, he orders an immediate escape. Jill unleashes her full power, shielding Jin as the carriage explodes, and they narrowly evade destruction. Jill wishes to take responsibility for the incident, but Jin insists there are more pressing matters. The attackers may not be what they seem. Some could even be allies posing as enemies. Observing the situation, Jin is surprised that they allowed him to escape, raising suspicions about their true intentions. It turns out that powerful factions, including the Yuta clan, the sorcerers of the Mel Kingdom, and the Black Mercenary Group, are all present to ensure his safety. Vice Captain Murka arrives to personally oversee Jin's protection, while the two imposter knights, posing as Jerome and Holtz, struggle against the superior forces. Jin, cold and calculating, commands action. Jill moves with astonishing speed, cutting down one imposter and crippling the other by severing both arms. Despite being a maid, Jill proves herself a formidable 7-star martial artist, far exceeding the expectations of anyone who underestimated her. The limbless imposter, shocked, warns that the age of the Runendells will end. Surprisingly, Jin agrees. He acknowledges that his ambitions serve his own growth rather than the clan's. The imposter reveals his affiliation with the Zayla Sorcerer clan, a rival faction that has opposed the Runkendells for over a millennium. Following the death of Timar, they had imposed strict prohibitions on magic within the Runkendell family. The attacker is merely a pawn in a much larger scheme. Jin lets Jill handle the prisoner and reflects on the attack, concluding that it was likely the work of a Zeal extremist, not the clan itself. He thanks Vice Captain Murka for saving them, showing an unusual level of maturity and strategic thinking for a 10-year-old. Murka, astonished, recognizes the boy's ambition and instructs his men to treat Jin with the respect he deserves. With the immediate threat neutralized, they continue their journey on foot, heading toward the nearest village, a 2-hour trek. Jin ensures Jill is not blamed, knowing even a highly skilled knight like Khan was deceived. The young master's reflections drift to the past. Jill had always been his devoted caretaker, even in his first life, remaining loyal and protective despite his perceived lack of talent. She had suffered unjustly because of him, yet never once blamed him and had even apologized for any perceived failures. In that moment, Jin realizes that Jill is the only truly devoted person he has ever known. Jin makes sure Jill understands her importance, emphasizing that she is the only person he trusts for his protection. Jill reflects on his words, realizing he only scolded her to prevent unnecessary guilt, and she resolves to perform at her best. Upon arriving at the village inn, Jin senses that the transfigurator Buber Gaston might be involved. Known for his extreme dragon-based transformations, Buber caused massive chaos in the world before his capture in Jin's previous life. The boy contemplates whether to recruit him this time, though his schemes had nearly led to Jin's assassination before. Exhausted from training, Jin falls asleep while Jill tucks him in. When he wakes, he notices an annoying cat at his window, which he quickly realizes is Muraken in disguise. The dragon, frustrated at being followed, hisses and storms inside, accidentally tripping over the desk. Jill bursts in, ready to attack, but halts when she recognizes the intruder, the very dragon she had been baking pies for. Jin introduces Muraken as the guardian dragon of the clan, explaining their secret bond and the source of his powers, emphasizing that it must remain hidden. Jill, impressed and supportive, cautiously considers relying on Muraken despite his clumsiness. They proceed to the Mel portal, where Muraken's duty is complete. Jill refuses to elaborate on why she left her clan to join the Run Candles,